Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we kept going with the Viridian Void Crusade, and we will keep on keeping on.
The enemy is here, preying on the weak and using craven tricks against the defenders of mankind. Perhaps we should find their leaders and give them a fair share of their own medicine.
So, I guess people are kind of dumb? I know that's a hell of an opening, but I was sitting doing what I usually do, just kind of browsing the internet, and there was a video of, you know, the robot dogs? Like, they're just like quadrupeds. Boston Dynamics made some. There's cheapo Chinese ones you can buy. There was a video of what looks like a Chinese factory, and they had a bunch of them, dozens, all standing next to each other, moving. What they were doing is, at what I would guess is calibrations, because they would all move in unison. What would happen is, like, they would all crouch down, so they'd like crouch their front legs so they'd lean forward, then they'd all stand normal, back at like a neutral stance, then they'd lean to the right side, go back to neutral, go to the left side, lean back, lay down, so collapse the legs, and they do that a couple times. And I guess it shows how easily manipulated people are, because they saw this footage, and there was like discount Terminator theme music playing over it, and all these people were freaking out, going, "Oh man, it's gonna be Skynet, all this stuff." I'm not a robotics engineer or anything. I'm just a dude who thinks robots and drone warfare are kind of interesting. None of that is impressive. The robot dogs are actually a colossal tactical mistake and a waste of resources if you're looking for military use. I saw people going, "Oh, this is going to cause EMP tech to advance a ton," and I'm like, what the hell is EMP tech? The only reliable way that I know of to create an EMP is to have a high atmosphere nuke explosion. And I'm sorry, for a couple cheap ass drones, I wouldn't really justify detonating a nuke. The return on investment is absolutely absurd, not to mention, imagine the international reaction. Realistically, to take down a drone, and I'm talking your standard, seen in every war zone for the past few years, DJI drone. Civilian market drones, effectively, because once you start getting to, like, Reaper drones, that's a whole different manner of beast, but your general drop-a-grenade drone, you just need standard jamming. Or you bombard them with microwaves. That's what a lot of these, like, anti-drone guns are, is they're scramblers. That's all they are. It's basic E-war. There's nothing fancy to it. And I was talking to my friend about this, and we were both having a good laugh at all these people acting like this is some robo-doomsday starting out. It's the same thing when people see the Boston Dynamics bipedal robots. They'll see it, like, pick up a board and climb up a little ramp, and then climb up a little waist-high barrier. And they're like, "Oh my god, they're gonna teach it how to fight people next." I'm like, push the thing over. Hit its knee with a stick. Throw water on it. These are not nearly as menacing as you think. Oh my god. I wasn't paying attention on that one. Oh well, we still, after... If we don't die anymore, we'll have 3 lives, so we'll be fine. But yeah, the drones, they're not that threatening. And people acting like there's something special is absurd. Especially the dog ones. If you want to look at it from a full-on tactical perspective, the dog drones are a horrendous waste of resources. Because they cannot move nearly as fast as a flying one. They cannot escape. Think about it. How hard is it to spot a flying drone, let alone in a war zone, fire at it? A lot of times they don't get shot down. But a little dog drone, you can chase after it on foot and hit it with a claw hammer. They're not that special. Then, I've seen these things in action. I did a video, which, admittedly, his video is very scummy because the people he worked alongside were actually really nice guys, and he just kind of threw them under the bus. Which, you know, it's the classic Australian talking about gun laws like he knows a damn thing. But if you watch it, I think Donut Operator, I know Brandon Herrera did a video on it because it's his guns that are used in the video, but they show just really kind of a half-assed mounting a gun to one of these dog drones. And if you were to take, it was like a PP-19, it's the 9mm or like AK variant, stick mag, whole 9 yards. If you slap that on and just go at it from there, it will actually be unable to like do sustained fire. A couple shots and it will actually tip over. And these things are not built to actually get back up, especially if they have any additional weight on them. So to make one actually viable, you would have to do a... because my friend and I talked about this, we were trying to theory craft a proper combat drone like this, and the best we could come up with is you have to do a custom built weapon. It has to be centered, because otherwise it throws off the accuracy of the shooter. But it has to be centered. It's going to have some kind of expanded magazine. Helical mags would work, but they're incredibly inefficient. At times, they're good, but the big problem is they jam. They're not good at feeding. Their feed issues cause problems. That's why they're not really used. That's why the Bison isn't actually as big as people make it out to be, thanks to games like Call of Duty. They shifted to normal stick mags because they're easier. But you'd have to have that, because even if you did a side-by-side, like 2 barrels, your accuracy is off because you cannot center. That's what happened with the Russian Terminator. Like, it's like a light tank. They were deployed to Ukraine, but no one knew how to integrate them into the doctrine. And because they were side-mounted guns, it was like 250s that fed from different ammo supplies because they couldn't figure out how to mirror the ammo feed system. But the accuracy goes down. So you have to make it one weapon. Then, if we're gonna keep going, your best option would be something along the lines of like a P90 mag. But you have to make it bigger because P90s are, what, 50 rounds roughly? You can't tell me it's worth putting a dog drone down, having it run to a location to fire 50 rounds and then run away. That's incredibly inefficient for what you're really getting out of it. Not to mention the legs have to be lengthened, because otherwise it's going to, at close range, shoot you in the knees. Because they don't have enough articulation to aim fully up to torso. Otherwise they have to engage at longer ranges, which is going to affect their accuracy, and that's a whole song and dance. But so you already see these problems. But it keeps getting worse, because from there, you now have your deployment range. Like I said, they gotta run. Not only that, they have a battery, so you gotta deal with the battery. Not only that, but you also have terrain. Once again, the I Did a Thing video and Brandon Herrera's video, they go over it. One of them stepped on, like, I don't even know what it was. Like a, you know, like the nylon straps on a backpack? It was like one of those, and it just swung, the leg just swung out from underneath it. It flipped over, landed on its side, battery pack blew out the side, instantly disabled. So you got a problem there. Neat, but we will actually go to this one.
The enemy is here, preying on the weak and using craven tricks against the defenders of mankind. Perhaps we should find their leaders and give them a fair share of their own medicine.
But so these drones have distance issues, not to mention they're unarmored. A drone can get away with being unarmored because, like flying one, because it's nimble, because it's in the air, it's harder to shoot, it's going to be engaging at farther distances. A dog drone is a lot closer and is going to need armor to have any chance of returning to combat. Otherwise, these things are glorified bomb drones, and at that point, just take an RC car, you know, do the Call of Duty RCXD style. Because that's a lot more efficient. But even then, those are incredibly inefficient in terms of combat. But these dog drones, you have to armor them because their size is so small that any shot to the torso of them, if you go head on, you're blowing through right at the front. If you hit it dead center, you're blowing through all of its visuals. All its cameras are gone because they're in a tight cluster. Then if it keeps going through, you're hitting most likely the battery pack, so it's disabled. If you hit it in the side, center of the side, you're hitting battery pack. It's gone. Its shoulder actuators are completely exposed, so any shot to the four corners of it takes a limb out and it's disabled. They have to be up armored. There's no way you can use them. I remember seeing stuff where, I think it was Russia was talking about putting like small single fire launchers on them. I'm like, you're gonna send that thing cartwheeling away when it fires. No, it's stupid. But so, there's all these issues, and people are failing to grasp that from a realistic perspective, those remote-controlled dogs, those drones, are so vulnerable. Plus, I keep saying at the distance, you have to, because you have to control these things, you're going to have to be close to your deployment zone. And you're going to have a deployment zone, you're going to have to be close to your target, So, let's say you're being really smart. Let's say you have standard Russian hardware. So you got a BTR, BMP, whatever you're utilizing. Same family of equipment, just different roles and whether they're tracked or not, but let's say you convert one into a drone command vehicle. Well, you are so close to your target, you are vulnerable. Not to mention there's munitions now that are radiation seeking, which don't misconstrue that as radiation as in like polonium, plutonium, radioactive radiation. What it is like radar frequencies, your radios, your different things like that. That is the radiation that is being emitted and searched for. So you would instantly, close to your target, be painting your command vehicle. Or if you have a fob, you're painting your fob as the command center. You are going to instantly, let's say you deploy a fleet of these, you're instantly going to have a Star Wars Episode 1 situation. You know, the battle droids, how they all responded to the one command ship, and when the command ship got destroyed, all of them shut down? That's exactly what would happen. You don't have any tactical advantages. In fact, using those drones, you are putting yourself at a tactical disadvantage. If you wanted to use something on the ground, you are better off using the US military style tracked drones, the ones that have like an M249 and like 4 M203s mounted on the side. That is a better bet. It's a little better armored, far better armament than you're going to get on some cheapo dog robot. It just astounds me. All these people, I get it. I really do. I try to be sympathetic, I try to be understanding, because I get not everybody thinks tactically. Not everybody understands basic military stuff, understands what you need in equipment to make it viable. But man, people are so dumb. And it's the worst conclusions. And like I said, it shows how easily manipulated people are when they can hear Terminator music and their mind instantly goes to, this is the bane of our existence, this will doom us all. No. You know how you beat these things if you're in a building? Put knee-high cover. They can't jump. I said to my friend, hell, you could stand at the top of a flight of stairs with knee-high stack of bricks, and the second that thing starts trying to scale them, you just tumble all the bricks down. Odds are, the sheer force of the bricks hitting it will break something. I realistically don't think ground drones are going to advance for probably 20 years. Like, they'll make advancements, but they will not be a tactically viable option. There's far too many additional things that have to be dealt with on foot than in the air. It's like I saw Vietnam, they're making a drone. This thing, I will admit, this thing's badass. Like, this is some menacing tech. What it is instead of a little drone, we've seen the military ones that have, or they're so converted civilian ones with like a grenade. This is a far larger drone carrying a rack of like 6, I want to say 80mm mortars. And I remember the second I saw that, I was like, damn, that's actually incredibly scary. Because a grenade can do some damage, but when you start flying over just airstriking, that's pretty impressive. Which, as I just said that, I realized we have reinvented World War II doctrine. Literally, drone strikes are just airstrikes with less casualties from your side. Seriously, think about it. A air vehicle flying over a targeted spot, dropping munitions. It's literally just an airstrike, but small. And thanks to their ability to loiter, it doubles as reconnaissance. Instead of using full-on flak and AA, you have small anti-drone equipment. Which I could see eventually some kind of... Okay, so hear me out on this. So we have these anti-drone guns that are effectively microwave or RF frequency scrambling, microwave bombarding things that work at a decent distance. I imagine we will see a deployable emplacement that will have a series of cameras all around it and like a secondary swivel section that it will detect a drone, swivel, and then use one of its probably multiple weapon mounts to then bombard the target until it is disabled. That would be my guess. Because then you can have a deployable, the only thing you have to worry about is weather and powering it. It could have potential. Ooh. +2 to warp heat, decrease / hit values of all psycho skills. That's not really useful for me. Shame. What about you? Stunned enemies? Nah. Yeah, it doesn't even have stun. Oh well, we tried. Yeah, not gonna gamble on this one either. God, these are all like hunts. I'll take it.
The very existence of this filth defiles the Imperium. They may be great in numbers, but if we sever the head, the body will die. Kill their leaders and break their will.
I get because of recency of... I mean... I have to say this, drone combat is not a new thing. We saw this in Syria years ago. Like, none of this is new, it's just... people are finally adopting it and realizing it's a viable strategy. But... I'm surprised games haven't really leaned into it yet. God, is my frame rate, like, tanking? What is going on here? This is kind of gross, not gonna lie. And I'm very perplexed. There must be just a ton of dudes somewhere ahead. But I'm surprised the game hasn't really leaned into it. One that would have made sense would be Section 8. I know I've mentioned it before, and I will never stop mentioning Section 8 is a phenomenal game. You cannot buy the sequel because it was digital only, but if you can find a used copy of the first game, I'd say pick it up. It's fun. It's hard to find because it's well over a decade old, but it was, for its time, a very interesting and well-designed game. It has its flaws, but the call-in system, I feel like a game could really use that, and drones. Go full-on battle droids. You could do kind of the giant mortar dropping drone stuff too, but then you could have deployable jammers that slow down robotic characters or even reduce their accuracy. Oh, cool, just insta-die. Neat to see that happening. On. Leave me alone. Yes. But I'm surprised that hasn't been picked up, because a lot of other similar things, you can see kind of it's obvious, a parallel between what is shown in video games and what's going on in current conflicts. Stuff like different weapons in general and tactics, you start seeing those bleed into games as, you know, a mission, or in the case of Call of Duty, like a streak or some pieces of equipment. So I'm surprised that hasn't really come to a head, but I figure give it probably another year or two. As I'm saying all this, I still can't get over how dumb people are with that drone. Of all the things you could find menacing in technology, you pick the stupid drones that are all synced together, crouching. God, just thinking of a military retrofit for those, or refit, you're better off just building something new. But all projects like that have to start somewhere, even if it's an incredibly stupid idea. Such is the nature of military R&D. This whole run is making me really wish I could have gotten my Ordo stuff up faster. Just because those, like, Chaos Cultists, it's like a 10%, I think, damage up. I would love to have had that for these fights and all this stuff. Even though, yes, I do get a bonus from one of the missions, I could also have more. And who says no to more damage? Though, I think I've said before, I don't know how damage bonuses work in this game, if they're additive or multiplicative? Yeah. Had to sound that out a little bit. But I never know, because if it's one is applied, then the next is applied, you would be getting more that way, because 10% of 100 is 10, so you'd be at 110, and then 10% of 110 is 11, so you'd get 121 damage, over doing just 20%, which would give you just 120. So there would be an advantage that way. But because of that, it makes me think they wouldn't do that because it's too useful. And I've learned from games, if it's good for you, then you don't get it. If it hurts you, if you deal more damage, they will never do it. If it hurts you more, they will do it. Which I understand, but at the same time, I don't know, that's another matter, because if, I was about to say, then just balance the game around that, but that becomes a bigger issue because it requires you to snowball even harder. So I guess there is an advantage to not having players have to, or not scaling it around that.
No pity.
The infinite struggles of game design. Kind of sad though when those, like, things like that where it's more on balance are less discussed, or at least less focused on than just how many microtransactions can we get. God, I loathe to think what Bethesda's gonna do with Starfield. I'm waiting, honestly, for it to be like Forspoken, where you need to have like a 3080 just to have it on 1440p. I want to say it was 30 frames a second. It was something really stupid, which I have to laugh at. I love how Scott Jaffe, I think, the guy who did like Twisted Metal back in the day, he said there's like, oh, I'm thinking about getting Forspoken because all the people mad at it don't like it because the character's a black woman. I'm like, I don't like the game because I played the demo and it sucked. It's an empty world. The parkour, people are like, oh, it looks cool. I'm like, yeah, you don't realize the parkour is there to make traveling across the map seem fun. That's the only reason. You are just bombarded with empty, boring areas, so they try to give you something to do while traversing the empty, boring areas. And you can watch, like, Charlie, Penguin Zero, whatever you want to call him, his review or his video, because he did a moist meter and then did a 50-minute video that was, Forspoken, God, screwed that up. But I think it was Forspoken is rough. And he's not wrong. The character is written to be an irredeemable tool. And that's the thing. Who likes that? There's a difference between, like, Tony Stark level snark or Star-Lord level kind of goof and someone who's just a douche. No one likes if your character is just an unbearable jerk to everyone. Literally one part. One of the characters who took in the main character and was like, hey, I accept you even though you're a stranger from another world. Her father dies. And the main character's just like, yeah, I don't care. In like the second to last chapter, to the other character's face. Just like, yeah, I don't care he died. I was right there. I like held the dude in my arms. I don't care. It's like, how am I supposed to sympathize with this character? How am I supposed to look at this and be like, yeah, I like this character. They're cool. No, they're just an ass. They're unnecessarily cruel. They're unsympathetic to anyone. People seem to forget, like, heroes need to be good, or at least an anti-hero. They have to have something redeeming. and this is going to sound incredibly cliche, but sympathy and understanding are incredible powers. To have the empathy to understand the plights of others is for a lot of people, a challenging thing. And I wish stories kind of put a little more emphasis on that. It doesn't have to go full on Life is Strange, my superpower is empathy. You know, if it's as bad as my superpower is not being a douche, you screwed up there. But there are levels to everything, and characters can be made a lot better. Don't go near! Yeah, this is probably where all my frames went, is rooms like this where they just stacked a dozen dudes. Well, like 2-3 dozen actually. I still can't get over the fact these devs did not add did not add Tzeentch or Slanesh to this game.
The chest was just
Just disappointing. That should have been an easy add-on. My hope is they're gonna just pull it out of nowhere and be like, hey, surprise, here's a seasonal update. Tzeentch. But it's not happening. There's no way it'll happen. I imagine this game will kind of drop off pretty hard when Space Marine comes out. I know I'm going to play Space Marine, at least the campaign. If the multiplayer is good, I'll do multiplayer videos. Don't expect me to be like some of these dudes that sit down and are like, this is the top 10 builds and the best build, and you know, the typical Call of Duty style where you have my face being all gasping and freaked out like the proctologist slipped a thumb in my butt, and having a weapon and then all the damage and stat meters are maxed out and glowing. You know, if you watch Call of Duty gameplay, you know the exact thumbnail I'm talking about. Because everyone does the same thing. I'm not doing that crap. It's gonna be me running around as an idiot, dying, and maybe doing decent. I'm here for fun. That's the whole deal. I cannot bring myself to be one of those guys who's... Okay, maybe for like... If we get a Dust sequel, I will do some of those like weapon breakdown or build breakdown video kind of deals. But that's not gonna be my life. I'm a design guy, I'm not a numbers guy. Never have been, never will be. Plus, I've always hated those kind of videos, simply because they get dated so easily. Yeah, it's a great content farm. You can review or re-review the same weapon 100 times, since every update will change it, or has the potential to change it. I just find them really boring. A lot of purples. But I think I got a Archaeotech somewhere along this run, so not bad in the overall grand scheme of things. God, I'm still not done with this place. Feels like I've been running this dungeon forever, but I think it's just because it's a bunch of small rooms. Amazing how something as simple as room size can kind of give an illusion of either progress or no progress. Perspective is everything, whether you like it or not. For some reason I just remembered Infamous exists. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad those games stopped, but I'm also glad because I played Infamous Second Son and Infamous Last Light. The chick who has like neon stuff. They were okay. They could have been better. Just like Prototype. People give Prototype 2 a lot of crap, but I thought it was decent. Admittedly, though, around that time everybody was kind of throwing their hat into the ring of third-person, like, kind of superhero, a lot of open-world game kind of deals. So I get it. We were inundated at the time. But I think that was also just kind of the natural progression. Open world was getting big again, everybody's kind of testing the water, seeing where they can go with it. Infamous ended up selling well, and so everybody's like, oh, we'll just copy Infamous, and it makes sense. A lot of crafting stuff I saw in there. Not the best, but not the worst. Like, I can always use crafting crap for boosting gear and, like, especially integrity. God. Destiny should have added, like, rerolling and added something like integrity on weapons and armor, because if you want a resource sink, integrity is the way to go. I put so much crap into just boosting integrity to reroll a single stat. Game economies, man, that sinks and faucets. That is a sink. Which, if you don't understand what that means, literally sinks and faucets. Faucets give stuff like a faucet would give water, and a sink, literally a sink. It drains water. So in this case, it would be draining Caligari credits and resources. Which the first time I ever heard that was actually in a EVE Fan Fest years ago. Because it was they were talking about, this was around a bunch of announcements for Dust. They were talking about economies. And even though it wasn't related to Dust, I was still so invested, and I was hanging around in EVE. That was the old days running in CVA, but I always found it interesting. Economies are interesting, regardless of video game or real life. I could never become an economist, though, as I did a fantastic job in economy classes, or in economics, whether it's micro or macro. I was able to just blow through them with ease. It's not my style. And it was never something where I was like, oh, I can make a career out of this. No, it's economics. I never saw I never saw where I could really go with it, first off. There's not exactly a ton of jobs. I knew a guy years and years and years ago who was working at a Target, and he had I think a master's in economics. And I was like, dude, why do you have a master's in economics? And why are you working at Target? And he goes, only reason I'm at Target is because I don't have my PhD yet. He was working on that, but places wouldn't even look at him unless he had a PhD. And I just sat there thinking, why? You already show you have a master's. To me, that shows mastery of the field. A PhD, to me, is just a way to flex nuts on people. And if you're a tool, force people to call you doctor. I will never call someone doctor. I know a few who have doctorates. I'm like, no. You're not getting that title out of me. I don't care if you earned it. You're not getting it. Some of the people I know were absolute idiots growing up, and I will always remember them as that. Some of them still are idiots, but, you know, whatever. They're not getting a doctor out of me. Nah. What are you? Garbage. And you... also garbage, okay. That is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button, it helps out the channel a lot, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.